Hi guys, Phil here again. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the three main types of guitars. Maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. Maybe you can only think of two. But let's learn a little bit about three main types of guitars. So first, this guy right here, well, you probably know this is an electric guitar. Now they're usually a big solid piece of wood, and if I have my volume all the way down, they're very, very quiet. So I need to plug this in to an amplifier, plug in my cable, and then I can make it as loud as I want. Even small amps can be surprisingly loud. Now, you see this in rock music a lot because one of the coolest things we can do with an electric guitar is we can change our sounds. You can create so many different sounds, from really cool, amazing, useful ones to really strange and weird sounds as well. But the main sound people are usually going for is what we call distortion. That's our rock and roll sound. So here's a nice clean sound. Here. There's some distortion. There's a lot of other things you can do with electric guitars, but you can really change the sound a ton using the knobs and buttons on your guitar and on the amp. There's a lot of cool things you can do with electric guitars. They also have metal strings. You'll see why I'm mentioning that in just a second. So, brief overview. There's electric guitars. Now, sticking with metal string guitars, here's the other one. This is an acoustic guitar. Now, this is kind of an odd looking one. This is a gypsy jazz guitar, which is a super cool style of music you should totally check out if you've never heard of it before. But it's still an acoustic guitar. So, it's hollow. All the sound comes from our sound waves vibrating inside the guitar, bouncing around and coming out of our little sound hole. So I don't need to plug this in. I've got natural volume and have a really nice clean sound. So again, I'm keeping this as simple as possible. I could rant on about all these types of guitars, but there is an acoustic guitar. Really nice, bright, clean sound because of those metal strings. And they're wonderful. They're tons of fun. You can take them anywhere, play around the campfire. Very, very cool. Now, let's take a look at the third main type of guitar. This is actually the oldest. This goes back hundreds of years. This is just a little one. They're not usually quite so small. This is called a nylon string guitar or a classical guitar. Some people call them Spanish guitars. And while it looks a lot like an acoustic guitar, right? It's hollow. I don't have to plug it into anything. But the main difference here is the types of strings. Now, maybe you can see that and ignore my creaky chair here. They look kind of plasticky. Now, nylon is, well, a type of plastic. Back hundreds of years ago, before plastic was invented, I believe they made them out of cat guts. Yes, that's true, just like violin strings and other types of musical instrument strings. But plastic is, well, a lot easier to make and a lot more humane and very, very cool. So this type of guitar has a very different sound. This type of string very soft and kind of mellow sound. It feels different. Quite often people play it with their fingers, but you can still play them with a pick as well. Everything is in the same place. Everything works the same way as the other types of guitars, but they have a very different sound and feel, and quite often the neck is a little bit wider as well. So beautiful, beautiful sound. In Latin guitar playing, Spanish guitar playing, flamenco guitar playing, world music, all sorts of different things. You might see a classical guitar, and you can keep an eye out for them and buy those plastic looking strings or buy the wider neck, and they're amazing. So there's the three main types of guitars. Now, just as a bonus, there are lots of other kind of more specialized types of guitars. I've got an electric guitar with 7 strings downstairs, which people often use for like rock and heavy metal and things like that because they can get lower. There's also what we call 12-string guitars. That doesn't mean they have a giant neck with 12 separate strings because we don't have enough fingers for that crazy stuff. But with 12-string guitars, it's really 6 pairs of strings. So instead of squeezing down 1 string at a time like this, you'd be squeezing down 2. So everything works the same way and they sound absolutely amazing. Of course, there's bass guitars as well, which are awesome. And there's lots of other specialized types of guitars, but most of them fall into one of today's 3 categories. So hopefully you found that interesting. Now, every time you see a guitar, see if you can figure out which type it is. It's usually pretty simple, but listen to the sound as well and see if you can tell the difference between the sounds. I hope that helped. If you like this stuff, let me know what kind of videos you want to see, what will help you the most, what questions you have, and of course, if you like this stuff, support my channel by liking, subscribing, checking out my epic guitar merch store. I've got the world's coolest guitar art store I've created in the description. And maybe even take some lessons, whatever you like. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.